You and I have teamed up on a lot of projects over the past few years, and I think you have a really unique background and really unique career path. So tell me about what you currently do and some of your past jobs that have led up to this point.
Okay, so currently I am working as a graphic designer or I would say information designer, because a
Mhm.
lot of times people think of graphic designer as being a logo designer or doing those types of materials. But I actually usually I spend my time creating graphics to help explain things. So, and I'm creating static graphics usually. So I'm not creating videos or things like that. But I like to take really complex, messy things and create graphics for them. So I spend a lot of time working with nonprofits, foundations, state agencies, helping them explain kind of complex stuff. So, uh, yeah.
And you've worked for yourself for a while. I'm in year 6. What year are you in now?
This will be year 11.
Wow.
So yeah, so I made it past the 10-year mark last year, so that was exciting. So yeah, I've been doing this for quite a while. This has been most of my professional career has been working for myself. So I am one of the few people that are very used to working from home during this time period. So
And you thrive working like that, which is why I keep hiring you over and over
yeah.
and over to help me on projects.
Mhm.
So take me back though to what you used to do before you started working for yourself as a graphic designer, because I think you have a really unique path that distinguishes you from a lot of other graphic designers that I've worked with and that I know.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, I do not have, my degree is not in graphic design, which is surprising to some people. So instead, have my master's in urban planning. So I started working for a nonprofit as their housing researcher. And so I was in charge of collecting all the foreclosure data during the foreclosure crisis. And then one of the local foundations here in Minneapolis wanted to create a housing dashboard, which was like a completely new thing at the time. And they were like, do you think that we could create a dashboard out of this foreclosure data that we're collecting? And since I was working for a nonprofit that only had 15 people and I was the whole research and design department at the time, I got the task of creating this dashboard design of different indicators for housing. And so luckily they really loved it. And I thought, this seems kind of like an interesting job. Like I really like taking this data and research and putting it in like a graphic format. And I was like, man, I wish this could be my job. Like, but that was like maybe 10% of my job at the time. And the rest of it was like calling up sheriff's offices and being like, hey, how many foreclosures did you have? So that wasn't super exciting. And then I also was like, okay, where does this job exist? Nowhere. So I thought, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to do this full time. So that's how I got started in this business.
I love that because, when we both started doing this, like a whopping 6 years ago for me,
Yeah.
but these careers just didn't exist as much as they do now. So that's what I love about having this conversation with a lot of people is like just hearing about how people had to blaze their own trail and create jobs for themselves, create job titles like, am I a data viz designer? Am I a graphic designer? Am I an information designer? So yeah, super, super cool to hear how you got started. I also got started with dashboards way long ago too. So I didn't know that that's kind of how you got started as well.
Yeah, dashboards were really kind of what I first started in. And then I gravitated to doing more design type projects. And since I've always really loved kind of like the long-term thinking, that was my like planning.
Mm-hmm.
I've also really gravitated to like theory of change and logic models and things that are kind of more longer term planning ways of visualizing things. So
And as you know, that's why I love working with you, because I don't like working with logic models anymore. So when I get these emails of people saying like, "Anne, we know that now you do data viz, but we know you used to work in program evaluation all the time. And we have this logic model we need you to help us with." I'm like, actually, you need Elissa to help you, because that is her specialty, is taking messy things and making them not messy anymore, especially for those non-technical audiences.
Yeah, that's really my favorite thing to do, and that was kind of my dream. Like, if I look back at when I wrote my, like, what I wanted my business to be when I started, like, that was the ultimate goal, was to be able to work with organizations to help them, like, communicate those complex things in graphic form. So yeah, it's great that now I would say that's the majority of my business is actually creating those types of graphics.
Awesome. I'd love for you to talk about tips for working with a graphic designer for the first time. You know, what should people know in advance if they're thinking about contracting with somebody like you?
Well, first of all, I can't speak for every graphic designer, but I will say with my work, I really I like you to think that you don't have to know everything when you come to the table. I really think make sure to budget in some time up front
Mm-hmm.
to talk through with your designer, like, here's some of my ideas, and let them have some idea, and kind of work through the content a little bit together, rather than being like, okay, everything is exactly how I want it, and then just I'm going to hand it off without a whole lot of upfront communication. I find that if you spend some additional time upfront talking with your designer, you'll get a much better result. Yeah.
I know one thing that we often do in projects is you'll ask people to submit ideas that they like, ideas that they've had created for them in the past, or ideas they've seen on websites, or ideas they've seen on social media. Tell me kind of why that's so helpful, and what types of examples or how many people should bring to the graphic designer at the beginning. What does that look like?
Yeah, so I always find if you can bring any examples of things that you like, and or if there's something you really don't like, that also is helpful. I mean, there's probably a whole bunch, but if there's like, I really don't like this, bring that up front, because it's really hard for somebody to describe like a look and feel, like by saying, oh, I want something professional, or professional, or could have a whole range of
I
meanings.
want an
So
infographic. It's like,
I want an
okay,
infographic.
what type?
Yes, just like in one of our recent meetings, what does an infographic mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we showed a bunch of different examples. It could be kind of this really playful, cartoony type infographic, or it could be a much more serious, more technical graphic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you can bring examples, that is great. And of course, if you can't find any examples that you like, ask your designer, because they should have a pretty good portfolio of examples. If they're not all on their website, that's cool. They probably have them someplace else. Just ask for some, and then you can go through and say, well, I like this, what you did over here, but not so much what you did over there. And it's okay to say, I don't like something that you did, because we're not offended up front. Like, just tell us what you don't like, so we don't design that for you in the process later. So.
Great. Elissa, this was so helpful. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you? Website, email address, how can they find you?
So my website is myvisualvoice.biz. So that's where I'm located online. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. I'm on Twitter at myvisualvoice, and on Instagram at Elissa Visual Voice.
Thanks so much, Elissa, for speaking with me today. Take care.
Yep. Great speaking to you too, Anne. Bye.